This week on Jersey Matters, one of the largest credit bureaus in the nation was hacked. Is your information safe? We'll talk to an expert. Also, aid going to Puerto Rico from New Jersey, and a musical prodigy you have to hear to believe. But first, there are people in prison in New Jersey right now who have been wrongfully convicted, and they're looking for help. In a moment, we are going to talk to a former Newark school teacher who spent 10 years in prison before he was exonerated. We are at the State House this week because there is an effort to help people in prison who are innocent. And for that, our first interview is with Senator Joe Pennacchio. Welcome to Jersey Matters. I'm Larry Menti. We come to you from the State House this week because there is proposed legislation to help people who are in prison but were wrongfully convicted. There are many more of them than you can imagine. In a moment, we are going to talk to a former Newark, New Jersey school teacher who went to prison for 10 years before being exonerated. And right now, he's still trying to get his life back together. But before that, we want to talk about that legislation and the proposal of a commission to review cases for people who are in prison but maybe shouldn't be there. And for that, we talk to Senator Joe Pennacchio, who is the author of the legislation. Thank you, sir, for doing this. I appreciate it.
Larry, thank you for having me on.
What exactly do you want to do?
Well, initially, we'd form a commission that would report back within 18 months, and the commission would be set up with a diverse group of individuals from the spectrum of jurisprudence. We'd have the chairman would be a former Superior Court judge, and then we'd have people from the prosecutor's office there, the public defender's office, the attorney general, and appointments from both the Senate president and the Assembly speaker. They would be charged with looking into the issues that cause and affect people being wrongly convicted, find out why they were, what can we do to remedy that. Going forward, what can we do maybe legislatively to remedy that? Find out, once these people have been adjudicated and they're out and they've been wrongly convicted, are the services there that they need to reintegrate themselves back in society? Are they there, or do we have to expand on things like that? It's not only money. I mean, there are psychological issues and social services issues.
And getting a job and getting away with the stigma, you lose so much of your life.
Right. Well, 10 years is a lifetime when it comes to science. 10 years ago, iPhone may have existed, but not to the level that exists now. Facebook really didn't exist to the same level.
Right.
Social networking was just a word. This is all part of being reintegrated, but in my view, the most important thing that the initial commission does would give recommendations for a more permanent commission, an innocence review panel, where people that have been wrongly incarcerated can go to that panel as another layer of protection and plead their case. And that panel, although it does not have the exonerating powers, would be able to take their findings and opine and make recommendations to the adjudicating authorities.
How big of a problem is this in the state?
Well, if it's you, it's a real big problem. Nationwide, since 1989, I believe 2,000 people have been freed that have been wrongly incarcerated. And it's a double-edged sword. Not only do we have to concern ourselves with the injustice of people that were wrongly convicted, which is huge, but also we have to be sympathetic to the victims, because think of it, the victims never got proper justice because the person that committed that crime is still out there.
As part of your commission, so it's one step to exonerate somebody. But then, do you have reparations at that point?
Well, there are reparations, and this legislature, I know we voted on, and we've tried to keep up with that as far as the amount of monies that people receive, but it's not only about money. It's about how their lives were disrupted, how people were not able to even attend funerals of their loved ones because they were languishing in jail for a crime they didn't commit.
Before this happens, before the commission happens, there's legislation, right? And the legislation has to be passed. Sure. Is that going to happen? You probably haven't.
I wish I had a crystal ball and could tell you yes. If it was up to me, I'd say yes.
Who would vote against it?
Well, let's vet it out. Okay, in its present form, it may change. That's what the Judiciary Committee is charged with doing, vetting it out and finding out the good, the bad, and perhaps it has to be tightened up language. Perhaps language has to be expanded. I am not an attorney. Okay. But again, the beauty of this and the thrust of what I'm trying to do is more on a moral and injustice issue as opposed to a jurisprudence issue. They do not have the power to exonerate that final panel. But I want to add that another layer would codify to the state what the Innocence Project does as a private entity, just to lend their voice to whether or not a person has been or has not been incarcerated because they're innocent.
And I get it. The importance of your commission, the importance of having something like this would be because the judicial system, for the most part, with the Attorney General, the District Attorney, they're set up to prosecute. They're set up on one side. And so who in the government is set up to make sure, except for public defenders maybe, who's set up to make sure that they did their job correctly, that there wasn't something they missed, that they didn't force a prosecution? That's where there seems to be a void.
Yeah, I would hope that the commission would take this in a direction not so much of technicalities and twisting and bending the laws, but in the actual search for justice and for truth. Even when you're found innocent in the state of New Jersey, you average 10 years in prison. So I would consider it a success if we can shorten. I would consider it a great success if we get rid of it entirely, but if we can shorten that significantly, where as part of the process, things are expedited because of the panel that we set up, then in my view, it's a success.
You do understand that the part of the problem is going to be everybody believes they're innocent. And so you're going to be inundated with people. How are you going to choose the cases to look at?
That's why I'm not on the commission. Okay? That's why hopefully the initial commission will determine exactly, just like on the parole board, they will determine exactly who is best suited, the type of resume that they have to present to do this.
Are most of the people that they've found have been wrongfully convicted African Americans?
We had a press conference this morning, and Richard Smith of the NAACP said that 62% of the exonerees are African American, a disproportional amount. There's all sorts of social questions with that as far as disproportional amount of victims also. But regardless, whether it's one person, regardless of what color they are, if they've been wrongly incarcerated, they deserve to get out. And that's why there's a blindfold on justice. Justice should be blind, should know no color.
But I think that most people, a lot of people, would think of this. You're right. This seems like an NAACP issue. You're breaking all stereotypes.
Well, that's not true. That's not true.
No, I do think that feeling's out there. Whether it's true or not, I do believe that feeling's out there.
Then we have to apologize to the people that attended a press conference like the NAACP, because then we hoodwinked them, thinking that we got them involved in a political partisan issue. It's not partisan. For me, it's a moral issue, an issue of justice.
Sir, I really appreciate it.
Larry,
thank you for spending the time. Good luck with this.
Thank you.
You're on the right track.
Listen, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
After raising two teenagers, I haven't heard that in years.
When we come back, we're going to continue on this topic, and you're going to meet a gentleman that was the victim of a wrongful conviction when Jersey Matters continues.